welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm back with another story time on phumi today. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome, and if you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button and the like button, guys. Please do. I would really love my YouTube channel to grow. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk about toxic friends, or backstabbers should I say. But anyway, before I start, I just want to say one thing. For the longest time in my life, I think from a young age, I've always maintained like good relationships with the few friends that I've had, and all the time they've always had like genuine intentions in terms of like our friendship and like whatever that we do together. Like they would hold our relationships like very sacred, you know, like the four preference that I have that I consider as like my day one niggas, you know. So as a result, every time we date, we wouldn't ever suspect our friends for like wanting to like sleep with our boyfriends at the time, or we never had to worry about such trivial things that other girls maybe like do, you know, like trying to snatch your boyfriend away from you or anything like that, because we didn't like the same type of guys, and even if we did, it just never happened. So all along I've only had friends that are close to me that have really genuine intention, until I got to varsity. When I got to varsity, I thought I had it on lockdown, because like I said, I grew up in a boarding school, so I knew about backstabbing and people who don't have good intentions for you. But when this particular friend backstabbed me, it hit me hard, only because I didn't anticipate what that type of behavior would come from her. So I'm gonna call her acquaintance, because I mean, I can't really say we're really friends. We're only friends because we only liked like mutual things. Like we'd party together from time to time. Yeah, we'd find ourselves in such situations. Like it was never serious, but I think we've been acquaintances for like 3 years up to this point. So every time we would talk about relationships or men, like she would have like good advice, not great but good, and usually it would work. And so I developed a level of trust with her. Like I started trusting her as a close, like as somebody who I regarded as a close friend at the time. Long story short, I would hear from the street like people telling me, what, like this girl is saying mean things about you on the street, and we don't know why you still like friends with her. But I'd always ignore it. But sometimes the things that people would come back and tell me, it would be intimate things that I had told her out of confidence, and I'd question like, or like, what type of person is she? But I always ignored the red flags, you know. And I remember somebody saying to me, what started the friendship will end the friendship. And remember, up to this point, our friendship was only based on us going out, drinking majals, and yeah, like just hanging out just like that, and like drinking, coming back, and just chilling. That was the basis of our friendship. There was nothing substantial about that friendship, and the fact that we did the same course and we used to do the same subjects, and yeah, we'd study together from time to time. So long story short, one particular day I met this particular guy, and when I met this guy, I didn't know that he had money. I wouldn't say, like, he's not wealthy, but he had money, like he was well established. So when this guy approached me, like this guy is like a humble guy, like he's those type of guys who never brag about their wealth or what they have. So he was very well put together, not well put together, but let me just say humble more than anything. So for me, when I date somebody, it's usually about the personality more than anything. I'm not a very materialistic person per se when it comes to like relationships and the type of men I choose. I really need to enjoy your company. So this particular guy asked me out. So we had a fling. I wouldn't say it's a relationship because it didn't really last that long, for the reasons of this video that I'm going to tell you guys, but then I digress. So one day this guy, I think after a week of meeting me, he was like, let's go out, let me take you out to like somewhere. And I'm like, nigga, no. That particular day I was wearing like, you know, when you come from school, like varsity vibes, you're always in your sneakers, your jeans. Like nobody goes to varsity with like in like full glam or looking good. No, it's always like, you know, purpose of this, like of education, you don't really think about really looking good. So that particular day I was wearing my sneakers, simple jeans and a simple t-top, and then I had like natural makeup. If you don't know much about makeup, you would have thought that I don't have makeup on, but like my brows were done, my foundation was on, my lipstick was on, but like not like a red lipstick or anything, like a nude lipstick, like almost like my lips right now. It doesn't look like I have lipstick on. But long story short, he told me like, let's go out, and I'm like, where are we going? He's like, no, let's go to Joburg. Remember at this time I used to live in the Val, so he's like, no, let's go to Joburg and go have fun. So I was like, okay, cool. So I told him like, I can't go with you alone because I don't necessarily trust you like that yet, so I'm gonna ask a friend of mine to come with me, like to accompany me to this, you know, like long drive. He's like, okay, it's fine. So I had a friend, I'm gonna name her KK for the purposes of the story. I had a friend like KK. Me and KK were like, we are very close even now. She's the type of friend that has good intentions for me, and I know that she's that type of friend that wouldn't backstab me in any way because we have developed that level of trust. So long story short, we get into the car. This guy was driving like, hey guys, this guy was driving Mercedes AMG. At the time I was a student, so it actually blew my mind that how can such a humble looking simple guy drive such an expensive car. Like, it was like, ooh guys, I was like, wow. Anyway, I digress. We went into the car and we drove to Joburg. Conversation was great. When we got to Joburg, guys, to the club, né? I remember we went in, and as we went in, I'm telling you, this guy, guys, looked raggedy. Not really raggedy, but he wasn't wearing like he was just doing the bare minimum in terms of appearance, right? And he had his sneakers on. They were quite cool, but they weren't really like something that you'd go like, wow, what's that, you know? And he had like normal jeans and a top and whatever. So as we walked into the bar, you could tell that everybody was starting to shake. Like, everybody wanted to be his waiter. And then that on its own told me that he's a regular here, and it means that it should mean that he spends money, in my mind at that time. So when we got there, he was like, what do you want to drink? So because of the way the atmosphere was and the way everybody was so like hogging him, I was like, okay. At the time I chose to drink like champagne, right? Come okay guys, I'm wearing a T-top, got jean sneakers, imagine. I'm ordering champagne. So I'm like, okay, let's just order champagne. He's like, cool, it's cool. And I was like, what? It's cool? He's like, yeah. And then I was like, no, and some few shots because in J, I just want to get myself going and stuff. Okay, we drank a few shots, and then we also drank like, I think 4 bottles of champagne. I remember while we were sitting there in the club, like, it wasn't like, it was during the week, so it wasn't like a Thursday or a Friday. It was like a Tuesday, random Tuesday. I remember some white guy walked up to him and he said, oh my God, like, your sneakers are nice. And I was like, okay. And then the guy like went off, and I asked him like, what is it about your sneakers? Because to me they look simple. He's like, he told me the name, I can't remember because yeah, I was probably a little bit tipsy. And then he's like to me, I asked him, what stood out to me is that I asked him, how much does these sneakers cost? He's like, they don't cost that much. It's like 40,000. I'm like, what? In my mind I'm thinking, what? That's like my fees. Why the fuck would you buy shoes that are so expensive? Anyway, I digress. So I asked him, I'm like, so that particular white guy that complimented his shoes, I was like, how much does his shoes cost? He's like, no, around my 60,000. I'm like, wow, okay. But he didn't really want to go into detail about it because like I said, he's not somebody who talks about his wealth. Long story short, we went back home, and like, he never tried to take any advantage of me. Like, I remember when he dropped me off, he was like, okay, have a nice night, I had a nice time with you, and he just dropped me off. Guys, I was so like, wow, this guy is such a gentleman. Like, he didn't try groping me, he didn't try kissing me, nothing. He just said, I had a great night, you can go home now. I'm like, oh, I like you. Anyway, so okay, at this point I go to my room with UKK, and then the next morning this particular guy decides to bring me like breakfast, like, you know, those things that you expect your boyfriend would do for you, you know. He bought me breakfast, and like, it was just nice. So I took the breakfast, and he was like, no, I'll see you later on. We met up, and he like he's like, no, you can still bring your friend, it's fine. So we went to some like, it's almost like a penthouse suite. Yeah, we went to some penthouse suite, and when we got there, guys, like, this guy opened his boot and he took out like a box, a big box full of alcohol. I'm sure that alcohol costed, like, it was estimated around like my 10,000. Ne? Like, it was all the spirits that you could think of, your tequila, your vodka, your Belvedere's, your Jameson, your Glenlivet, like everything, like most of the spirits that people like, they were in that box, right? So we went in, and his friend came, played a couple of games, and then yeah, the evening was done, and it was fun. So now, coming to this toxic friend. So I'm gonna name this toxic friend Ubusi. So one particular day, this guy calls me and he's like, let's meet up in an hour. I'm like, cool, get myself ready. After an hour, he calls me. He's like, are you gonna come with a friend? I was like, no, I thought I'd come alone. He's like, no, you can bring a friend because I'm gonna be quite busy, and you can go to like any restaurant and then you can go eat, and then I'll come and pay the bill, then we can like go chill somewhere. I'm like, cool. So now OKK at the time wasn't there. She usually lived at home, so she wasn't there. So I just went like Ubusi had a friend who lived next door. So when I went to the room next door, I got in. I'm like, how, Ubusi, you here? She's like, yeah. I'm like, let's go. She's like, where? I'm like, no, girl, get yourself ready. We are going to have fun. Okay, Ubusi put herself together and we went to like a restaurant. I remember when we got to the mall, I chose the most expensive restaurant in that mall, you know? And I'm like, let's go there. And then Ubusi was like, girl, do you know ukuthi le bill izosenzani? I'm like, let's go. When we got there, we ordered like a bottle of champagne and we ordered food, had like conversation, drank alcohol, and she was so astonished, guys. She was like, why are we drinking champagne? Like, is this guy really gonna pay this bill? Like, yo, like, Phumi, no, you better get your life. I'm like, no, relax, like, this guy's gonna pay the bill. After like an hour, the guy shows up and then the guy's like, yeah, let me pay the bill. The bill was like maybe like 1.5. Let's cut, guys, I'm a student, ne? It's 1.5. So the guy's like, girl, what were you guys eating? That cost so much. I'm like, no, we're just drinking and eating like this and that. And he's like, so if I had left you here for 4 hours, how much was the bill gonna be? I'm like, wait. So he paid the bill in cash. He had like a stack of cash. He paid the bill in cash, and then that's when we left, and then we went to like the penthouse suite that he initially booked the previous time. So when we got there was like alcohol. He bought alcohol, the same amount of alcohol, and we're chilling and we're just having fun. And yeah, like he was just a fun guy in general. Long story short, me and Ubusi went out with this guy like 3 to 4 times after that, right? Yeah? So Ubusi saw Ubusi, this guy has money, and she was always so fascinated with this guy. She always asked him questions. Where did you get this guy? Why does this guy like you? Like, I don't understand. Like the questions that she would ask, right now, I can tell that it came from a jealous place, but at the time I just felt like she was just encouraging me, like telling me, you're the bitch, girl, you're the bitch, right? So long story short, it happened that I went home for like a month, right? So when I went home for a month, and the reason why I call this guy fling is that we didn't talk all the time. We only talk time to time, because for me to develop a relationship, I want a guy who's gonna woo me. So let me just say we're at the wooing phase still, and he also liked it, and I was like, cool. So I went home for like a month, and then I came back. When I came back, remember I said Busi's friend lives next door to me, and that's where I found her that particular time when I went out with her to the restaurant. So when I went next door to like Busi's friend, I was chilling with her. She's somebody who I was cordial with. We would talk all the time. I lived alone, she lived alone, so we'd usually talk after school or anytime we free, really. So when I got there, the girl's like, Wena, do you know that we went out with a guy, like a rich guy? I'm like, you went out with a rich guy without me? She's like, yeah. Ubusi all of a sudden called the guy, and then the guy came, and then we went to the penthouse suite, and yeah, we're drinking. And I'm like, and then what happened? Ubusi was all over that guy, and Ugai Mara like pushed her away, and I'm like, did they sleep together? And she's like, no, they didn't, because Ugai was just like, nah, I'm not about you, nigga, right? Okay, so the guy, after maybe like 2 days or 3, the guy calls me and he's like, where are you? I miss you. I just want to see you. I'm like, no, I'm around. You can come through. He came through, and I remember I didn't ask him anything, but I had a lot of questions with him. Why would he chill with Ubusi without me? You know, like I felt betrayed in a way. Like my self-esteem was not okay when I went to go see him that particular day. So when I went into the car, the first thing the guy says, like he came with like, okay, when I went into the car, the first thing the guy says was like, be careful who you call your friends, because they might not have great intentions for you. I'm like, nigga, what do you mean? He's like, did your friend tell you that she chilled with me? I'm like, my friend chilled with you? Where? How? She's like, oh, I don't know where she got my number, but she called me and she was like, let's chill. So I came here thinking that when you were going to be here too, because I asked her where you are and she was like, you're at the house. When I got here, she said you're not around, and then we went to go chill, got the penthouse suite and drank and stuff like that. And I'm like, where did she get your number? And he's like, my question exactly. I thought you gave her my number or something, because I was so confused. I'm like, no. So much I'm starting to think, it's like, where could Busi get this number? Like, yes, it's like, was it maybe because I left my phone, maybe like I was on WhatsApp or something and I went to the toilet and she looked for the number, or what? Like, I couldn't understand how she got the number, but then it didn't matter at this point. And then I asked him, remember, Busi's friend told me that they didn't sleep together. And then I asked him, did you sleep with her? She's like, no. He's like, no, He's like, no, I have a type. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, no, I have a type and I wouldn't do that to you because I know that's fucked up, you know? I'm like, wow, so you thought of me? He's like, yeah, I thought of your feelings. And I was like, no. But anyway, I'm not attracted to her. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I wonder why she thought that was okay. And he told me how this girl was all over her and the things that she was doing. Guys, I was so shocked. Like, never ever in my wildest dreams did I think that people who we call friends would do this to you. I mean, you see it in movies. You just see it everywhere in terms of like commercial media. But you never think that it could ever happen to you, you know? And the guy persists to tell me that the girl kept on calling her, asking him when are they gonna meet and stuff like that. And I'm like, what? Oh, guys, that day, ne, I realized the saying that somebody once said to me about how your friendship starts is how your friendship is gonna end. It came to light. Okay, granted, I didn't end up dating the guy in the long run, of which I had my reasons, because I feel like he was also in the wrong. Why the hell did he still allow them to chill with him, knowing very well that I was not there? The minute he had noticed that I wasn't there, he should have left and have never like progressed with the evening with them. That's what I thought. So that was one of the reasons why I cut contact with the guy, because I also questioned his loyalty to me, even though he didn't do anything on that particular night. But I feel like I was more disappointed in her because she's a woman, and I feel like she was contributing in taking down another woman, regardless of whether I was dating the guy or not. But me and the guy had a thing going, you know, and I was potentially going to date him if this incident didn't happen, right? So I go back to my house now, like in shock, thinking, what the hell is happening? Like, why would this girl do this, Mara? And then I go back to my house, and then I remember I asked her, I'm like, hey, Busi. He's like, hi. I'm like, were you chilling with like, I nearly said the name. Were you chilling with like Ukai? And then Busi was like, yeah, I was chilling with Ukai. I'm like, why? And she's like, girl, don't you think we also want rich guys who buy us like food and take us to fancy restaurants and takes us out and give us like money for random shit? I'm like, oh, so you pursued this guy because of the things that he used to do for me? And she's like, yeah, I pursued him because I also wanted the same things that he gave to you. And I'm like, but you do realize that all of the things that he was giving me, I didn't ask him for them. He is the one who volunteered to give me all of those things. And she was like, yeah, I know. So I was like, yeah, I know that maybe like it looked glamorous from the outside, but I never asked him to give me all of these things. He gave them to me. Like I said, I'm not materialistic, you know. And I also said to him, what makes you think that he will think that you deserve the type of treatment that he gives me? Like, what makes you think that you also deserve the same treatment from him? Because like I said, like for the longest time, I always believed this, that a man only treats you the way he thinks you are worthy of. Am I making sense? Because even if you look at the time they were chilling together, he just did the bare minimum. He didn't do the things that he would usually do with me. Like, he would spoil me non-stop, guys. And when I mean non-stop, I mean I'll be back from school. He'd text me, are you back from school? And I'd go like, yes. And he'd ask me, what are you doing? And I'd go like, I'm sleeping. And he'd ask me, have you eaten? And I'm like, no. And the next thing you know, like, Uber Eats is like just not Uber Eats, man. Like a delivery is just there for like food from him. Okay, I want. So it got me thinking, Guti, sometimes you have to be careful about the people that you bring into your space and the type of people you introduce to your partner, because not every friend has good intentions for you and your relationship. And this is why you also must not tell a lot of people about like your personal stuff, or bring them into your personal space or a space that you really cherish, you know? Like, I could have potentially had a great relationship with that guy, not because of his financial benefits, but because of who he is. Like I said, I liked him as a person because he was very, very humble. But anyway, she taught me a lesson, and to this day, I know who my day one niggas are. If I don't fuck with you, I don't let you into my most intimate into my most intimate places, and I certainly will not introduce you to my man or partner at the time. Oh hell no. She told me the hard way. Long story short, I'm no more friends with her. Cut her off, because that's what she deserves for what she did to me. Anyway guys, thank you for listening to the story time. If you liked hearing the story, please press the like button and subscribe.